Hello everyone, this is Dale Whitworth with East Texas Torah. I'm just sitting out on the porch this afternoon watching the sun go down, letting my little dogs play on the porch, and enjoying life and the blessings of Yahweh, amen. But I want to just talk just a moment. There's some chatter going on around the Facebook groups that I'm involved in that are talking about that, and it's been going on for a long time. I've heard this practically all my life, but a lot of people believe that unless a commandment is specifically, forgive me, I got my teeth in, specifically reiterated in the New Testament, that it's no longer binding. Well, there's a couple of things I want to bring up just very shortly. But consider this. There's nothing in the New Testament that mentions anything about bestiality, having sex with animals. So, since bestiality is not specifically mentioned in the New Testament, does that mean that the laws against having sex with animals is no longer binding? Think about it. Further, the reason that there's nothing mentioned about keeping, well, there is, but people want to deny it, but about keeping the Sabbath within the New Testament is because this was a Jewish Messiah speaking to primarily Jewish people that had been keeping the Sabbath all their life. Why would he need to keep reiterating, telling them to do something that they've been doing their entire life? Stop and think. And once again, we go back to the fact that Yeshua says in, I believe it's Mark 4:4 and Luke 4:4, he says that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of his Father, which is Yahweh. Well, go back to your Torah. Open it up. Turn to Leviticus chapter 11, and that's where you'll find the dietary laws, dietary instructions actually. Well, the opening remarks in Leviticus 11 says, "And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying," Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, these are the animals you can eat, and these are the animals you cannot eat. Okay? Didn't we just discuss that Yeshua said that live by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yahweh? Amen? Well, Leviticus 11:1 says, "And Yahweh spoke," came out of his mouth, to Moses, saying, these are the animals you can eat, these are the animals you can't eat. Those are the type words that Yeshua was talking about when he says, live by every word that proceeds from the mouth of his Father. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying. We'll fast forward a little bit and go to Leviticus 23. In Leviticus 23, it has a breakdown. It starts with the weekly Sabbath, and then it goes through all of the what's called the Moedim, the appointed times, the feasts and festivals of Yahweh, in order during the chapter of Leviticus 23. Well, once again, the opening line of Leviticus chapter 23 says, "And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, these are my appointed times, my feasts." It doesn't say these are the feasts of the Jews. It doesn't say this is the feast of the Israelites. He said these are my meaning Yahweh's. These are my appointed feasts. Amen? And it gives you an order. It starts with the seventh day Sabbath, and it goes on through every biblical feast and festival that we go through the year in chronological order. Well, once again, Yeshua says, live by every word that proceeded from the mouth of his Father. Okay, Leviticus 23 opens and it says, Yahweh spoke, came out of his mouth, to Moses, saying, these are my appointed feasts. So, when Yeshua said man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yahweh, he's talking about those things in Torah. He's talking about the seventh day Sabbath, which is the first thing listed in Leviticus 23, right after it says, and Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying. So, that's my point I wanted to make today, as I'm just sitting here pondering some of this social media nonsense going on. But you don't have to reiterate every commandment in the New Testament for it to be valid. As I said, bestiality is not mentioned anywhere in the New Testament. Are you going to try to tell me that the commandment against bestiality is no longer valid? It's been done away with, abolished? And the whole, I don't know what you want to call it, the mistake about Sabbath not being mentioned within the New Testament is a farce. Because in Leviticus 23, he said, and Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, these are my appointed festivals, my appointed feasts and festivals. And in that, the very first one listed is the 7th-day Sabbath. So, Yahweh spoke, came out of his mouth to Moses, saying, these are his, not the Jews, not the Israelites, these are my, Yahweh's feasts and festivals. Amen? So I'm going to leave it at that. I just want to keep this short. But, as I said, just sitting here enjoying the sunset with my little dogs, and beautiful weather out today. We had some rain that passed earlier, but it settled down, and it's very nice and very beautiful out here. Let me see if I can turn this camera around. There you go. You can see the end of my porch. There's the sunset out there. And very nice out here. Yahweh makes a beautiful creation, and I'm then so happy and blessed to enjoy it. Amen. But this is Dale Whitworth with East Texas Torah. Thank you for joining me. I'm sorry about the camera shaking, but I'm not used to holding a camera. I normally use my computer. But you guys be blessed, stay in the Word, and we'll see you next time.